Well, listen, we've got 28 people on the call right now. Why don't we kick things off and let people trickle in here? I think I'll turn it over to Frankie to kind of warm things up.
Well, cool. I just wanted to give you guys kind of like a heads up of what you have volunteered yourselves for, the evil master plan here. I'm going to turn it over just in a second to Matt. And for those of you guys who don't know Matt already, I mean, he's kind of an evil genius. I know, don't let that bearded Eastern Canadian fool you. He's the founder of Codelytics, which is we've been testing a lot of software for pulling up cold email contacts, and Codelytics is by far the best for actually reaching decision makers and for actually getting like contact info that you can't otherwise get. Like just as an example, like, say somebody's trying to reach a dentist, a lot of times they're getting the gatekeeper email, which is like, office@dentistemail.com. And with Codelytics, we're able to get like the dentist at dentistemail.com and reach them in a way nobody else can. So it's an incredibly powerful tool for what we're about to show you. And then we're also going to have Alex Ivanov here, who is
hey guys.
Yeah, there he is, who is like many of us, a world traveler. And one of the things Alex is really, really unique, his skill set is being able to send cold outreach to, in a day where everybody says cold outreach is dead, he's breaking through with Fortune 500 companies, Netflix kind of size companies that you can't just send a cold email and drum up some business with. And what we're going to show you really more than anything is how to do this the right way. And then at the end, they'll have some bonuses and things that'll help you guys to do this on your own. But we want to show you the whole thing for like how to find the decision makers, how to reach out to them, what to say, and basically as well show you what everybody else is doing and why that's not working. So you stay away from, all the horrible things that happen in outreach, which is mostly just like a lot of copy and paste kind of garbage emails, and keep you guys far away from that. And show you what's working, at least for us. So I never want to tell you this is the way to do cold outreach, but it's our way that's working for us. And you guys will get some real golden nuggets over the next little bit. So why don't you guys take over from here and go ahead and show them some cool stuff.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Frankie. Thanks for kicking this off. And Frankie didn't really mention anything about himself, but he scaled not one, but 3 agencies, and he now coaches other agency owners. So if you guys are looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of pointers, consultation, he's got an awesome group, the Beyond Agency Profits group on Facebook. So if you guys want to jump in there and connect with Frankie, if you guys need that help, he's definitely a resource, and that's why he's on this call. Alex is running Hypergen, or it was just rebranded over the weekend actually from Hypernova Marketing Group. So they've done some kick-ass stuff, and again, like got responses from stuff, and you'll see this shortly, like Netflix and Bose, their cold email, and we're going to show you guys what that really looks like and how you can implement it. And then if you guys stick around to the end, we will give you guys the access to the slide deck that we're using, and on it are some bonus trainings from Frankie about following up, like actually what to execute on in the sales process, really killer stuff. And then also some really technical stuff on setting up the best technical processes from Codelytics, in addition to what you're going to learn from Alex today. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Alex.
Hey, thanks for joining, guys. Let me just share my screen.
And guys, feel free to jump in the chat here with questions. I'm going to moderate the chat, so I'll interject periodically and make room for the questions, but just pop them in as you go. And just to confirm that the chat works for everybody, can anybody who can access the chat, can you just put a 1 in the chat right now? Just want to make sure. This is our first time doing a webinar with Google Meet, so I want to make sure everybody's able to use this as intended today. Awesome. I see them rolling in here. Perfect. 100. Oh man, we have overachievers. I love it. All right, Alex, get off here, man. Take it away.
All right, guys, let's jump into it. So today we'll be talking about how you can scale your cold emails from 0 to 60 leads per month. So a little backstory, right? I'll just start with this funny meme, but basically how it all started with our agency is like 3 years ago. We pretty much worked for this one startup. We did a bunch of stuff there, but what really stood out is we did these cold emails, which actually helped them land their first 100K ARR deal. So that was like a pretty big deal size for them. So then we're like, maybe we could do that for other people, right? So pretty much a year and 10 months ago, we created our cold email agency called Hypergen. And pretty much since that day, we've been wondering how can we scale the agency from scratch to 10 million ARR, right? So right now where we're at 20 plus active clients and 8 plus employees. So just let's start with some case studies, right? So these are some of the brands we booked meetings with for our clients. So you have Snap, Reebok, Lego, like pretty much a bunch of Fortune 500s. We've probably messaged them. We've probably gotten meetings with them. So right now, I'm just going to show you like a few quick studies. Unfortunately, for most of them, I couldn't show you the company name since they didn't want to be public. But basically, we've worked with a couple of different agencies. So for example, this is a PR agency. Just think of it as your basic PR service, right? Excuse me. So like Forbes, Yahoo Market, and whatnot. These guys were targeting like CEOs, CMOs, funded startups. So in terms of pure results, January to February, they had about 60 leads every month, and then March over 76 leads for the whole month. And you can see kind of like the leads dashboard here, and just some of the overall stats, right? We'll go into more detail later, but basically we normally target about 3,000 to 6,000 contacts. For these guys, they had about a 51% open rate and a 4% reply rate. And then 76 of those turn into actual leads. So again, this also works for other agencies. Like we've worked with the video production agency. These guys, they had 36 leads. So that was a bit less, right? Similar results. So 57% open rate, 5% reply rate, 36 leads. We've also targeted a bunch of other positions, but just one more case study about targeting real estate people. So these are like agents and brokers in the US. These guys have been crushing it like from day one, since they have an amazing offer. And again, you can see like they have a 64% open rate, 4% reply rate, 68%, 68 leads. And you can just see some of the response here, like, yes, I'll be interested. Yes, I'm interested. Tell me more.
Alex, I'm just going to interject here. I've got a question, and this is a good one that I used to see when onboarding clients in my last agency that I worked at. What defines a lead? Where do you disqualify a lead, and where do you qualify them? Like, what lets them make that count?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way we define a lead, right, is first of all, we decide on what's your target. So for example, let's say for these guys, it was pretty much real estate agents that had like a certain amount of transaction volume. So let's say they did like at least 5 to 10 transactions last year, or there's some kind of broker owner. And we define a lead as someone that fits that category, and they respond, okay, like I'm interested in learning more. Could you send me more information? Could you give me a call? So you can see some of the responses here. So basically, not all these turn into calls or demos. They're just like interested prospects, if that makes sense.
Awesome. So it's a positive notion within the right criteria.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And
like a lead to me.
in terms of like, what happened like from a sales perspective, right? I pulled this out from our like Capterra. So this was like the review. They basically closed about 40 of them into clients. So you can kind of do the math. Like I think they were closing about 10 per month. But again, this varies, like depends on how big your offer is, right? If you have a bigger deal size, you might close one in like, let's say 10 or 20. But that's still okay. Cool. So now we can jump into the awesome stuff. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to start from scratch on how you can set up the actual process, right? So first thing I want to talk about, guys, it's the 112 rule that we say. So this is how you'll send out your actual emails. Basically, what we use to send out our emails is business Gmails. And the way we kind of have them set up is on one workspace, one domain, and 2 accounts. So what I mean by this, you should create a separate G business account or workspace for each of your emails and each of your domains, just to make sure they're not getting banned. Because we had scenarios where the whole workspace is banned, which means that your emails are going to spam. So I'm just giving you an example here. Let's say your original domain is biscuit.com, right? And your name or your sales rep name is James Bond. So if you wanted to set up James Bond with new accounts on Google to use for cold email, you can buy these domains like biscuitsales.com, Biscuit Marketing, Biscuit like B2B, Biscuit B2C, any kind of domain that comes to mind. And then you would just split them across different workspaces. So like James at Biscuit Sales, James Bond at biscuitsales.com. And you can kind of see how we have them split up here for one client. Like there's one admin, there's another admin here, and whatnot. Cool. And then how we do the whole setup to make sure you can track all these inboxes. In Google, you can actually forward all your emails. So basically all those 10, 15 accounts, you can log into Google and you can make sure they forward to this one main inbox right here. So you don't have to log into each inbox. And you can also connect them to your CRM. By the way, we'll provide you at the end of the presentation with like really detailed steps for you to do all this setup. So you'll know how to do it step by step. But let me know if you have any questions right now.
Yeah, if this is like crystal clear, you guys are familiar with each of these steps. Why don't you put yes in the chat? And if this is new to you, put new. And that way we'll get an idea of where the depth of experience is in our audience. Okay, so we're getting some mixed responses here, right in the middle. I like it. Yeah, this is good. So bear with us because we're going to get into the nuts and bolts, the actual strategy coming up. So for those of you guys that are like, hey, yeah, I've been down this road, I know this stuff, sit tight because we're coming right up on that.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, the reason we're focusing on this, guys, is that we see this scenario so many times where people get like 10, 20% open rates or even close to zero, and they think it's okay. With this technical setup, we do manage to land like 50, 60, sometimes even 80% open rates. So it's important your emails are getting seen and read. Okay. So just a quick note about warming up your inbox, right? Once you set up all these accounts, you can use tools like Gmass and QuickMail to set up your warm-up. So what this does is it basically like it sends out emails with other users that are in there, which builds up your authority. It's kind of like building up your SEO authority. You need to do the same thing for all those emails. You should also be subscribing them to 10 to 15 users manually. We do this. We just seen that it improves the results. And in terms of how we send out the emails, like pure sending volume, what you want to be doing is like 15 to 20 emails per day after 2-3 weeks. Once you warm up the emails, and you gradually scale that to 50 emails per day. Okay. And if you ever need to test if your emails are going to spam, you can always check out these two websites, mailtester.com and Gmass Go Inbox.
Alex, quick question on the spam box or spam folder. Yeah. Does changing the email, so somebody said, doesn't changing your from email address increase the odds of landing in spam? Have you experienced that?
So what do you mean by changing your email?
Yeah, so using multiple, I think they're just referring to using multiple. Can you just confirm there, Brian? Are you referring to using multiple sending accounts with the same messaging? Is that the question that you're looking to have answered? Mm-hmm. Yeah, using multiple emails and sending accounts. I'll let you speak to this, Alex, but in my experience, that hasn't been an issue. Yeah,
so from what I understand, if you're using the same message, you're asking if you use that too much across all the domains, that's going into spam, correct?
Yeah. Like, is it going to hurt the deliverability to be using multiple email accounts with the same message?
Yeah, so definitely we've seen mixed results there. Overall, it depends. Like, let's say if we have a super low reply rate across all of them, it might affect it. Normally, what we do is we do tend to vary the message. So overall, it's a good idea if you can do it. If you can't, I mean, worst case, you just have to switch domains, but it's something that you have to like just try and see. But we've seen, I want to say, mixed results.
Yeah. And I would say, Brian, I think we're maybe not answering exactly what you're looking for, but feel free to ping Alex or I afterwards, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction and get you more clarity on that. Another question, What about using a tool like Warm Up Inbox? And I've tried a fair bit of these tools. Alex, I'm happy to weigh in here if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I've used tools like Lemwarm, which is a fantastic, probably the best in the industry from Alex Berman's case studies. Tools like Warmy.io and all these different things. And really, there's different levels to which extent they've actually gone in and done their homework to make sure that things are deliverable. Back in the day, you didn't need to warm up anything at all. You can make a campaign, make an email account, send stuff out, and it would deliver no problem. But those days are long gone, and they're every single year, Google in particular, and Outlook, Microsoft, they're hammering the deliverability restraints to try and cut back on spam, right? Because there's more and more people doing cold email, and there's even more of them doing it really badly. So they're trying to throttle back the bad stuff to create positive experiences. At the end of the day, anything is better than nothing, and you get what you pay for. So if you use Lemwarm, you're paying probably over $100 a month by the time it's all said and done, but you're getting what some people would say is the best in the industry. And as you'll read in the document that we've linked in the bottom of this presentation at the end, and in some of Alex's documentation too, it really comes to a good setup with a good response rate. And if you can execute those two things well, you're going to have great success. But I mean, if you're really rough at cold emails in the beginning, having those tools in place can really help you out as well. Yeah, so not to go too far down the rabbit hole, I think we'll leave it at that for now. And Alex, you can keep going here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I was gonna just to add on to that, the more important stuff that you need to do is like really properly set up your inboxes and then properly set up like your custom tracking domain. Some people know that. And then like for warmer tools, we've seen that even the ones that are free, that I mentioned in the presentation, they also like do a pretty good job. But cool. So these are just some of the tools that you can use for actually sending out the emails. And like some like lemlist, for example, they also have an warmer tool inside. The one that we use is smartreach. To be honest, is because of like it's the most cost-effective option that we've seen so far, and we just love its reporting functionality. But each one of these are worth checking out. So like lemlist, Woodpecker, Cliently, Snow.io if you need a really cheap option, and then pretty much anything else. So what I suggest is just like try it out, try all these tools, see what you like, and just roll with that. Cool. So now we can get into the data part. Matt, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so at this point, I just want to give you guys like a 5-minute overview. If you haven't sourced lead lists before that are freshly researched, really that's why we created Codelytics. I've sent or overseen the sending of more than 3 million cold emails. So I tell everybody, 98% of those 3 million were a waste of time and emails that I probably shouldn't have had sent, but 2% taught me everything about high conversions. And the biggest problem that I have faced to date has been data. And Frankie loves to talk about the direct response mail studies that have gone on over the last 100 years. And the stats came back that there are 3 key things that produced results that if you can get these 3 things right, you'll win consistently. So on the low end, 10% actually came down to 10% of conversions came down to what that call to action was. So that's a big number, but it's not, it leaves 90% on the table. So don't overthink your call to action, but it definitely has some weight. The second was what the actual offer is. Like what's in your copy? What are you offering to people? Is it of interest, right? 30% of it just comes down to that. Even if you word it poorly, you know what? That's a pretty big, substantial thing. Like if you give somebody a no-brainer offer and you deliver it really poorly, that's still a good reason to say yes to something because you can see the value beyond the poor presentation. But 60% actually came down to the list that they were mailing over the last 100 years. So what does that mean? Like, oh, like, you know, obviously you want it to land on somebody's doorstep if you're sending direct mail. It's the same idea with email. You want to get to that person's door, but if the person you're trying to send an email to no longer lives there, well, that's not very good, right? If you're trying to get to the right person who's shown interest in the past, like if you can hone in that list and get it more and more optimized, more and more refined, this is where you're going to get those 80-20s. You can send outbound campaigns and you can just go on those fundamentals and you will get results. But if you can find those 80-20s, they'll really put you ahead. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly how to, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to show you guys really quickly how to find your ideal customer profile in a way that's done with fresh research. And the reason that we did this instead of a database was that we found freshly researched lists converted better than anything else. So you guys can go and Go to Codelytics.com if you want, and you can make a free account. This is what it looks like when you have an active account that you've been using. We're going to go to new task, and you just start out by setting the amount of leads that you're looking for. So let's say you're looking for 1,000 leads. Ideal customer profile. So this is really, really basic stuff, and we have much more advanced strategies that make that 60% weight, the list itself, much better. But if you only have an ideal customer profile and you don't have any other strategic entry points to leverage, like intent signals, things like that, then this is good in and of itself. So let's go ahead and set this to, we do United States, and we're going to say we're looking for owners most often, and let's say you're looking for plumbers and HVAC. Anybody that falls in those categories, right? And then what's going to happen is you could play with all these other parameters. There's a bunch of suggestions we make on places to find those. Like you could go to Google News and you could search for plumbers and then find plumbers that have been in the news in certain areas. And then we could pull data from that and build a list out of that. And you can email and say, hey, saw your plumbing shop in the news recently, send the link to the article right in the copy, right? And be hyper personalized at scale. And this only takes you a few seconds to actually set up. So I'll scroll by this for the sake of time here. Additional notes, if you guys are talking to a real person, asking them to research something, that's what you're doing. That's just a self-serve platform. Just take 10 seconds to really say like, hey, this is what we're after today, guys. This is what we're looking to get out of this list. So I'm going to jump to the next screen. Question that we often get, does this change the price? No, it doesn't. You'll never have any surprise costs or anything like that. We make everything right up front, easy to follow. So a lot of you guys are doing cold calling. You can get phone numbers. You can get links to their LinkedIn profile, company website, whatever it is. And then you guys might be thinking like, well, what else? Is that all you guys can do? I really like to have their Twitter URLs. Just type that in. And maybe you want their Instagram and their Facebook page. We'll message you guys in the chat in your account and just be like, hey, this data point in particular isn't available for whatever it is you're researching if we run into issues. But otherwise, if you need that data, we can get it for you and we will research it. It's all in the platform. It does not cost extra. At the end, you go and review the task. If this looks good, what you're going to get back from Codelytics, excuse me, just dry today. If you were to ask for 1,000 leads from Codelytics like this, here's what would happen. This list gets submitted to our research team, and then one of our lead researchers will then review it and say, okay, here's what we know from research we've done similar to this in the past. Here's where we're going to start our research. And they send a whole bunch of humans out to go out and manually click buttons, do research, do crazy stuff, in addition to all the automation software that's out there. And they're refining it constantly and validating emails as we go. And so it's a mass effort conducted by a whole lot of people. We have over 150 plus contract researchers that we tap into as needed to fulfill for you guys. So that's how we're able to offer this at scale and in such a quick turnaround time. So within 24 hours, you'll get a list back that looks something like this here. It'll be highlighted with yellow if anything's catch-all. And if you guys don't know what catch-all is, that's okay. It just means that that email cannot be validated until you try to send a physical email to it. If they come back as invalid, then we'll highlight them in red. And you may be asking, who do you use to validate these emails? We partner with Zero Bounce's real-time API to do this. So it's going through a Fortune 500, an Inc. 500 company to produce this. So top of the line stuff, you can see the phone numbers, all the contacts that were possible to source are here. But we guarantee you're going to get a valid email and you guys will never pay for bounces. So if anything ever bounces, you can just send us a screenshot and we'll credit that back to you. We don't want to sell garbage and nobody wants to pay for garbage. So that's not what we're doing here. We're looking for data that's going to convert highly for you, that's really, really targeted. And this is a list that you're looking at that nobody else would have. If you requested this, again, it's not pulled down from a database. It's really researched from the beginning. So you're getting stuff that nobody else has very often. So with that, guys, I will pause here briefly. If you guys want to put any questions in the chat, I'll take 2 or 3 minutes to answer those. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to Alex to keep the wheels turning here.
Yeah, there's some folks that are asking about pricing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to scan these here. So,
Hey guys, personally, I think for the pricing, like that's some amazing data. Like to get mobile phone numbers that cheap, I will do it every day.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the free credits come if you have subscribed to a plan. So just subscribe to a plan, guys. You can do that up in here, and this is where I'll go over the pricing. We built this product really to compete with what companies are signing up to Zoom Info and Sales Intel for. Just for a comparison, actually, I'll see if I can just pull this up just to kind of give you guys a bit of a benchmark here. I don't know if it's going to open this or not. No, well, that's okay. If you were to look at like a Zoom Info package or a Sales Intel package, they typically start at about $16,000, and that's okay. Like, you do get value out of it, but the problem is that most agencies, most businesses don't sit on $16,000 in the bank account to make a list out of. And so if you want that kind of quality, you shouldn't have to pay through the nose, in our opinion, to get off the ground. More and more in today's world, especially with everything that's gone over the last 24 months, it's extremely hard to get yourself ahead and to get an edge. And we said, hey, what if we just bring down the walls a little bit here? What if we make freshly researched data accessible to everybody at a price point that an operating agency can really afford and scale with? So there's no contracts, no commitments. If you were to look at Sales Intel to sign up for their basic plan, it starts out at $16,000. You have to commit to the whole year, and you only get 2,500 research contacts in that, and then you get unlimited access to their database. But it's like speed dating for business. You're just pitching to everybody else in the database that's been pitched as well. So that's kind of our value proposition. If it is on the more expensive side for you guys, and I know there's a lot of people on this call that are like, yeah, it is, like we just can't afford that point yet. This is what I would recommend. Check out this link here. I'm going to share this. This is a data comparison. And there's plenty of tools on this that you guys can use. And there's nothing wrong with using them. The issues that I highlight on them are issues that can be resolved with time and effort. So if you guys have the time or somebody on your team that can take data from those places and clean it up, then by all means, go ahead and check out those tools. Those are the tools that I started using initially. What happens if I have to pause the subscription for a month or two? What happens to existing credits? So we freeze the credits for you, and then once you reactivate your subscription, you can continue on and use them. So they're not going to expire on you. We'll not just wipe them out of your account or anything like that. Which percentage of leads is accurate and which is not? We guarantee 100%. So if you find that something's inaccurate, let us know and we'll fix it. But we shoot for 100% every time. Undeliverable emails, credit that back to you. Yeah, that's right. So with this, I'll turn it back over to Alex if you want to share your screen and keep the wheels turning here. And we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end as well.
Hey guys, we're going to jump into some of the juicy stuff, the actual copywriting, the actual results. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. Cool. So do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So guys, I feel like, like Matt mentioned, data is 60%, pretty much the other 40% is the technical setup, but also writing the emails, right? So super important. This is how not to write an email. I literally pulled out a random cold email that I got from my spam inbox. So you can see this is what people normally do. Like, they focus on themselves. Like, they just say oh, we have this amazing service, like this SEO, like we're so good, we're so great, we work with Fortune 500s, right? Just like pretty much fluff. Nobody cares. You get marked as spam. You offer zero value. Nobody reads your message. That's why people get almost no response in cold emails, because they're written bad and they're targeting probably the wrong people, right? So this is how to write cold emails. Now, what I want you to do, I don't want you to follow like a particular template. Ultimately, you should be able at some point to just write your cold emails from scratch based on what you've learned from your audience, how they think, what kind of language they like, okay? But this is just like a quick example I actually did for one of my friends. So he just sent out 10 emails, and actually, it was 5, and he managed to close one deal out of these 5 emails, okay? So what we normally do, kind of like a typical structure, is we'll do like an icebreaker. So in this case, it was super personalized, right? Sometimes you can personalize your email specific to a prospect, like one by one, but it kind of takes a lot of time. And I'll talk about some examples on how you can do that at a larger scale. So for example, in this case, we said, was super impressed with your work at X, that you did in X. I watched the trailer. Was super impressed how the music tied the production together and made me feel the heavy mood of the Holocaust. Then we just say discovery thinking. Are you currently using non-automated processes consisting of multiple disconnected tools like spreadsheets, cloud storage, e-signature? So just a quick note. Here we're reaching out to music supervisors, and basically what my friend had is a SaaS platform that helps them pretty much manage that whole process for creating music from A to Z. And you can see we mentioned that we help manage that A to Z music purchasing one platform with a growing list of talent. We're already working with brands like blah, 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 helping them manage their song media budget. And then are you interested in learning more? And basically how we split our emails, right? We do the icebreaker relevancy, which is this first part. Then we normally talk about their pain point. So here you really need to pretty much figure out what their pain point is, right? Do they need more revenue? Do they need more time? Like, do they need a simpler process of managing whatever they're doing? Then we normally say how you solve it. And finally, your call to action, okay? And pretty much, just a quick note, let's say for call to actions, we like to keep them a lot more loose. Like, we don't like to say, let's meet at this time. We normally just ask them if they have any interest. And then once they do, from there, we actually schedule the meeting. So we never put stuff like Calendlies or anything like that. So any questions so far about the copy here?
Just to answer the questions on the recording, yeah, guys, we're going to put out a recording later this week. We do have a question, which components are required for an email. Can you clarify that, Kala, just what you mean? But I think at the end of the day, guys, it really does come down to two fundamental things. You can split up the effectiveness of the copy versus the the effectiveness of your copy versus the call to action. But you have to make sure you're talking to the right people with that message. So I like to kind of reference back to, if you're walking down the street and you stop somebody and you said what was in your cold email, what's that going to look like, right? Because that's what you're doing when you send an untargeted cold email. You're just walking up to somebody in the street and you're pitching them. And they're like, who are you? Why are you interrupting my day? And why are you possibly asking me to spend 30 minutes on a call with you? And you're like, make no sense whatsoever. But if you're standing outside of a trade association building, let's say like an electrical engineering building, and you're saying, hey, I work with electrical engineers just like you, man, do you have 10 minutes to connect with me? I just wanted to tell you about something I'm working on. Well, probably a good amount of those people are going to say, yeah, man, sure. And the rest of the people are going to say, no, I don't have time, sorry, and keep going, right? But just because you stood at the right building in the right place, you got a better offer. But let's say you could barely put your words together and barely sling a sentence, and then you ask for a meeting with them or to step aside for 10 minutes. They're still going to say no to you. It doesn't matter if you're in the right place at the right time. You can't communicate very well, and they're going to see through that. So you have to kind of navigate those waters, and that comes from direct response marketing, that study, that approach. One guy, I think it might have been Jay Abraham, said that him or somebody he respected would actually take their email copy to a bar, and they would sit down at the bar, and because you get honest answers out of people that are drinking, and they just go through the script and they just read it to them, and then until the responses got warm enough and receptive enough, they'd go back home and they'd work on the script for several more hours. And this was done in I think it wasn't for cold email, but I think it was for ads that you see in like the Inquirer, and just really spammy looking magazines that have big headlines about things that are happening in Hollywood. That's how they were improving their copy, was by going to a bar, spitting out something at somebody, and seeing what they came back with. So when it comes to copywriting, I think that really kind of encompasses everything. But Alex, you see some questions in the chat. Why don't I turn it back over to you to kind of answer those questions too?
Yeah, for sure. Let me just jump in back, and we'll go into more detail, by the way, but let me just look at some of the stuff. Okay. So personal line, okay, components. So I think you're asking about like personalization, right? So first name, CTA, I mean, anything you can pull out. Like sometimes we put like their funding round. Sometimes we segment people that are recently hired. So for example, you can go to Matt, you'll be like, hey, give me a list of companies that are looking to hire like PPC folks. So in this case, you can reach out, you can say like, hey, I saw you're looking to hire like a PPC manager. So it's good for you to pitch your PPC services then, because there's a lot more relevancy. Okay, so kind of like how he mentioned the story. What about the subject line? Right. So about the subject line, I think our software does this automatically, like RE. like with the reply. So I don't think there's any issue. So how do you keep yourself creative, generating new copies, email copies every time? So that's a good question. So first of all, watch a lot of content, see what a lot of other people are doing. But what we also do is really like we take a super deep dive into who our audience is and even go into some of the channels they are. So for example, we look at stuff like Capterra reviews, maybe even if they're on Reddit, like Quora, just like to see what they kind of do. And then we have some, I guess, basic templates in mind. But once you better understand your audience, like really writing the text, it's not as hard. Like really writing an email, it takes about 5 minutes, right? It's mostly about how well do you understand your audience. So cool. Any other questions before we jump in further?
And I'll build on that for a second too. I'm going to put a link here in the chat, guys. This goes to a specific post. If you're not in our group, you'll have to just get added to our group. You can just put in a request to join. But the reason I'm sharing this with you guys, it's a cold email benchmarks guide. So many of you have seen this, some of you haven't. It talks about open rates, reply rates, but at the bottom of that PDF is something called the KPI funnel, and I'm looking at it here on my other monitor. And it starts out with breaking down what affects your open rate and what affects the reply rate. Outside of the technical setup, it's the order of operation in which you should optimize your campaign. So if you're seeing issues with your open rates, like you can check the benchmark guide and tell if it's not, if you're below par, then this is where you need to work. And it gives you a really simple, straightforward approach to optimizing your copy to maximize responses. So, you know, weigh in on the conversation there as well. If you guys have different experiences or different stats, I'm always open to sharing knowledge. But I think it's been based on the 3 million emails that I've overseen, and at the 2%, this is based on that 2%. If you're trying to get yourself up into that really rare kind of bracket of cold emails, these are the stats that you should look for. Go for it, Alex.
Cool. So I was gonna jump into some campaigns, but because we're so much focused on like who we should target, right? The one of the two things that are super important for your cold emails to be successful is being relevant. So basically this is doing all that research about your audience. And these are just some of the questions we ask initially, right, when we start working with someone. And this is just a bit, right? But here you can see some ICPs. Like pretty much we ask stuff like, are they recently funded? Are they recently hired? Are they looking to hire like for certain positions? Do they have like a certain department size? So maybe do you work with more people that have like, let's say, more marketeers or less marketeers? Do you work with people that have developers in-house or they're outsourcing it? Are they based in the US or Canada? You know, all these questions, the more you can answer from them, the better. And really where you should be basing this data from is from your current clients, right? Ideally, once you have like over 20, 30, even 50 clients, you'll start to notice some trends. And hopefully, okay, you'll know like for example, for us, most of our clients are like recently funded. They're probably expanding like either in the US or in a new area. We know they have like SDRs, they're hiring SDRs like crazy. And based on that data, it's not also that you'll be getting more responses, it's also you'll be talking with more qualified people. Because at the end of the day, guys, even if you have 60 leads, 100 leads, I don't care if you're meeting with the wrong people, nothing is gonna happen, right? It's better to get 10 like super qualified, like these guys that fit all your criteria. You'll be much more likely to close them, okay? And you can see just some of the research that goes into like for other clients here. Like, so we check industry, size, geography, and whatnot. And then the other thing that I want to pinpoint is really being precise. So basically thinking about what's your target audience pain points and what do you solve it? How do you solve it? Okay. And there's multiple pain points. There's multiple things that you solve. Really, the best advice I can give you for each email, just focus on one pain point, one benefit, and one call to action, okay? And I'm just giving you some vague examples here. Let's say SEO agencies, like everyone says, we help you rank higher. We have 100,000 backlinks, whatever. think about what does that SEO do for your client, right? Simply put, it's much better to say like, we help you generate 10 to 15 extra appointments for months. 10 to 15 extra appointments every month. Let's say if you're targeting dentists, okay? So going super specific, like niching down. Same thing with e-com agencies. A lot of people say like, we're really good at PPC or we help improve your campaigns. Instead, we had this client, like what we did was we focused on a specific industry, like pet stores, and pretty much we made the message specifically for them. We had like, I want to say 15, 20% reply rates compared to like 5% reply rates when it was like super vague. So you can say something like, we specialize in helping pet stores grow their revenue for a funnel of display and remarketing campaigns, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into one actual campaign for clients. And by the way, let me know if you have any questions while we're doing this. So I'm just going to refresh the stats, right? So normally what we do is we have a ton of campaigns that are going out. These are some of the more successful ones, right? 15% reply rate, 8 replied out of 57. I think about 4 of those turn into leads. So we're going to see the actual copy. By the way, this is for a video production agency, okay? And you can see here, right? We're targeting people that had funding. So before, when I talked about the fact that you can personalize at scale, when you have the right data, this is what you can do, right? So you can gather all the companies that have funding and you can personalize it for them this way, okay? And here we just asked them like a question, how do you raise brand awareness? Blah, blah, I'm not gonna read it. And then here we are focusing on beer lovers, all right, beer companies. So the cool thing is we're focusing the copy specifically for them, okay? And are interested in learning more. And then what we're also doing is we're A/B testing. So sometimes like, I mean, guys, you can test out like short copy, long copy, like feel free to try out a bunch of stuff out. In terms of templates, by the way, let me put this in the chat. There's this website on lemlist called lemlist.com. I think it's LOTW. So for example, if you go here, you can look at some templates. Like I know this is a good place. And you can find some other ones online, okay? And then for follow-ups, this is where we tend to get super creative. I'll give you some other tips. But for example, we like to do a lot before and after pictures, okay? What we see is a lot of guys, a lot of people, they don't use a lot of images. And that's one of the ways you can make your email stand out. So for example, again, these guys, they do video production ads, like videos. So they work with a bunch of big clients. And here we're reaching out to other beer companies, right? So what we did was like, we did this Elmo, and pretty much here's what they might expect. Here's what you'll get, right? So kind of like a funny comparison. Day 7. So the way we normally structure our emails, day 3, we do an intro. Day 3, we kind of bump up the email. So we do some kind of follow-up. Day 7, we normally ask who's the right decision maker, okay? And we've seen a lot of good results from this because a lot of times you might be emailing the CEO, but they're like, okay, talk to my CMO, okay? So would you mind letting me know who I should get in touch with? And then finally, day 11, we normally do like a breakup email. So tell me like one of those 3, what do you think? And this varies for each client, but we do at least like, I want to say 4 emails in total. And day 11, you can do like a free trial. You can do like this 1, 2, 3, like really anything that comes to mind. And then purely stats-wise, you can see some of the results here, right? So what I want you to track is when you do these A/B tests, especially in this tool, for example, we can see, okay, like variation A worked best. Here, variation A and B were okay. And then like, so for our next campaign, okay, we are actually gonna scratch this and we can focus on this text because it works so much better. So any questions so far about the copy here?
Yeah, I'll just highlight that lemlist. Zamir, go ahead. You can unmute anytime there if you'd like.
Yeah, guys, go ahead. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, I see them coming in the chat here. Okay, we'll do them through the chat. And just a quick note that I wanted to make on that lemlist resource. Lemlist has a big group for their sales enablement platform, and when people post like phenomenal results, they invite them to kind of review it internally, and if it passes their check, then they put it on there. So those are some really primo scripts that you guys can use. We're not affiliated with Lemlist. We do have an integration with Lemlist, but we're getting nothing out of telling you this other than we want to help you guys grow. What sets this apart from other SEPs? You can actually go to smartreach.io, and on the homepage, there's a case studies button. If you click that, there's a case study we did under Codelytics. Again, we have no affiliate relationship with them, but you can read how Codelytics has used it. That said, I've used a bunch of different SEPs, and I find that at the end of the day, they're all pretty much doing the same thing, and you'll find some things that you love on one and some things that you hate on another, and that's kind of how you find your favorite one. There are some that have some cutting edge features, and right now the current one that we're using is cliently.com. Again, no affiliate relationship, but it's totally up to you guys. I think really what helps you guys grow the fastest and can be adopted the fastest is probably the best choice for you. So base your decisions on that. Anything you wanted to add to that, Alex, in your experience in your agency?
Yeah, so they were asking about what's the right cold email tool to use.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, guys, the reason we picked SmartReach was really about its reporting functionality. Like, I'll show you a bit more details there. We saw it was super stable, like we had no issues with it. And really, it's a lot more cost effective than the other tools since we do like 10 to 12 accounts. But like Matt said, they're all really great. So it's really worth checking into each one individually and just seeing what you like and what fits like pretty much your goals.
Yeah, Frankie, did you want to weigh in there?
Yeah, I just want to, I don't necessarily have recommendations for software. You guys would know the technical side, but I noticed there were some questions just about like messages, and we use kind of like a similar kind of thought process to Alex. And I've, like you, Matt, I've probably sent millions of emails over the years, and LinkedIn messages and direct mail, and all of it is a form of cold outreach. And we have a pretty simple formula that I think will make your lives easier if you guys do it, which is one, personalization. So like one form of like say something specific about them, because I'll tell you, like when I get people hit me up in my inbox, if I can see it's a copy and paste message, it doesn't even get open, like the preview sentence. If I can see, like I wrote a book called Beyond the Agency Box. If the first message says, "Hey Frankie, I just finished reading your book," like 100% of the time those messages get open. So there's some kind of personalization that will get people open. The second thing is I like to do what's called naming their baby. And this is such a small thing, but it's like their business is their baby, right? Like like we think about our own business, how important it is. So like I always name their baby, and specifically if you can take that a level deeper and name their product or their service. So like, hey Matt, I was checking out Codelytics, right? Like for him, Codelytics is his baby, right? So that message is far more likely to get open than if I don't name his baby. And then the third thing, and Alex kind of hinted at it, is we have an offer that represents like a value add in a give. If you write your message, like, and the bar test is a good one. I've actually done work with Jay Abraham, know him personally, and working with his team now. And the thing that we look for is like, when you write, does it feel like give or does it feel like a take? Because I'll tell you, like 95% of the cold outreach messages I get are just like basically like, give me your money. We do blank. I am this. Give me your money. And when it reaches out as a give, you'd be amazed at how that works. So to give you a real example, one of our guys in our mastermind, he reaches out to top personal injury lawyers, and his give is, hey, I saw you guys are one of the top personal injury firms. I would love to share your message and your thing. Could I interview you for 10 minutes? And I'm not saying you have to interview everybody, but that's his thing, right? It doesn't sound like give me money, hire me for SEO. But of course, at the end of that 10-minute thing, they want to know who he is and what he does. And one more like little bonus tip that I think will help you guys is our tool is like what we do for people as marketing services are generally like, I call it like a hammer or a plane ride. And if you compare like your service to a plane ride is a tool to get you from A to B, but what most people are interested in is the A or B, right? Like if somebody's sick of being at the office and they hate their boss and meetings, all those kind of things, and they want to go on vacation and have beer and barbecue and beach and bikinis. That's what they're interested in. Most people, when they write messages, are selling the plane ride. Oh, we have comfy seats. It's super nice. Just to take that analogy a little further, the hammer is like, for example, like if somebody is interested in your services, one person is trying to build a deck, another person is trying to build a birdhouse and make their kids smile, another person is trying to remodel their kitchen, and it's that you talk about. And the simplest way I've found to do that is just to ask your prospective clients, what are the clients you wish you had more of, and talk about that. So like if you're selling SEO, instead of saying we do SEO, we have backlinks and we can rank, if you talk to like a lawyer, for example, one thing I'll hear is they'll say, they hate traffic ticket clients. You get millions of them. They're easy. They're volume, but like a traffic ticket person, they make $100 and it costs them $100 to fulfill. So you could bring a lawyer like 10,000 traffic ticket people. They don't make any money. But if you bring them like one trucking accident case, they might make a $250,000 thing. All things being equal, they would much rather sell their $250,000 thing. So if your message outreach is in the form of like, hey, I'd like to help you sell your $250,000 thing, whatever that is, their highest and most valuable thing, they'll be far more open to talk to you in my experience. So like if you're dealing with an online coach, they might have a $47 course in a $40,000 mastermind. All things being equal, if you can walk in and write them a personalized message, name their mastermind, and then say, I'd be interested in helping you sell your mastermind without really dropping your SEO or your Facebook ads or your PPC, you'd be amazed at how that opens doors really, really quickly. In a day where everybody tells me outreach is dead, like we send sometimes just like 3-4 letters of direct mail, and I'll get all of them back to come back and become clients. And part of that is just following that formula of we personalize, we name their baby, and then we say we got a way to sell your highest, most valuable thing, and we'd like to give you some kind of way to test that out. Would you be interested? You'd be amazed at how that like breaks the ice in a way that you don't have to send tons of messages to really have a big impact. So I just hope that's helpful to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for diving into that, Frankie. I think that that really encompassed something that maybe you don't have perspective on, you do now. And if you guys want to have a bigger conversation on that, always happy to get those going in Frankie's group or our group. Yeah, I think these are topics that we could probably have a whole webinar around on their own. So I appreciate that insight, Alex. Anything you want to add to that before we keep rolling?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Definitely, like, one thing that I love about what I heard from Frankie is that he really understands his audience really well. So he actually asks the lawyers like which cases they want. So that really has to do a lot with being relevant to them. Like if you know them so well, I also think they'll resonate with the message a lot more. Because like really at the end of the day, what you want them to experience is like when they read that email, they're like, oh, this guy understands me. Like it's not that same spammy email that I keep getting in my inbox. Like they actually did their research, they know what they want, so why not have a call with them, right?
Yeah, and I think based on, I'm just looking at the clock here, guys. I know we've got 6 minutes left on the schedule. We probably will go a little bit over, but does anybody have a hard stop? Just put yes in the chat if you do, and if so, we want to make sure we give you the offer that we're going to give to everybody else who attended live to the end. And I know some of you guys probably have meetings back to back. So if you have yes and you want us to give that to you now, we'll give that to you, and then we'll keep going with the presentation. Otherwise, we'll just plow through and then we'll get to it at the end. Okay, yeah, a bunch of people got to jump off. So Alex, why don't you jump down to show people who are interested in working with you what you've put out there, and then Frankie and I will offer as well.
So I'll jump into this real fast, right? So if you want someone to do this A to Z from you, like the whole cold email campaign management, the contact generation, sending out the emails, custom list building, the only thing we wouldn't handle is the responses. Here's our offer. So we are giving you a 20% off, right? A regular parsing is $3,250. If you decide to work with us within the next 1 hour, it will be $2,600 USD per month, or in the next 7 days, it will be $3,000 USD. This is a 3-month minimum agreement. If you want to work with us or interested in learning more, just shoot me an email, alex@hypergen.io, or just go to the website at hypergen.io and feel free to book a call there, or you can jump or give me a call here at my phone number. Cool. Then Matt, did you want to?
Yeah. Just if you go to the next screen there.
Sure, I'm just gonna share my screen.
Yeah, let's we'll give it over to Frankie here first.
So this is just really short, and this is free. You guys don't have to buy this. I just included 2 bonus trainings for you because I think they're really awesome. They'll benefit you. In our agency, we have closed clients for the last 2.5 years without phone calls. So like I know everybody's selling like booked appointments and things like that, but we actually don't do booked appointments. When a client shows interest, I just send them a 5-minute video, and they either say, yes, I want to buy it, which is the most typical outcome. Sometimes they tell me no, that's cool too. And every now and then I get a question or two, like, does it work in this situation? Those trainings are exactly how we do it. And they're very conducive, by the way, to people who have money, who don't have a lot of time, and don't like, if somebody's really busy and successful, like a lot of my clients are, a 90-minute sales call is not a benefit to somebody who's like got a lot of things to do. And so we just summarize the offer in 5 minutes, get right to the point. And there's 2 trainings I did for how we create these 5-minute Loom videos, as well as the dramatic demonstrations we do, which are probably the most important part of it. It's the first 10 to 15 seconds where you really hook them. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys will get the slides as a bonus. You just click there on YouTube and go through and watch them. They're each about 20 minutes, but they're well worth the investment of time.
Yeah, 100%, guys. I'm learning from Frankie every single day, so I appreciate you putting those out there, Frankie. I just put a link to this slide deck. You guys can save this, keep this. I see a bunch of you are now on it. That's where you can find these links. They start at slide 28, so if you scroll to 27, scroll to slide 27, or just click it. That's where you can start to find these links to open these up, bookmark them, and double down on these. If you want to jump to the next slide for me there, Alex. Yes, anybody signs up for Codelytics from the live presentation in the next hour, we're going to give 100 free credits on top of our bonus. So you'll see under your account settings the different plan tiers. If you do sign up, we'll throw in 100 bonus credits, which is an equivalent of $100 value. And anybody after that in the next 24 hours, we'll give you an extra 20 over and above the bonus that you get for being a new user in the first place. So that said, how do you activate that? How do you get that? Just message us in the chat. We'll actually add those manually for you. Just tell us you were on the webinar. And again, it's 100 within the next hour. So between now and an hour from now, I don't know what time zone everybody's in, but go for that if that's something that's a fit for you guys. Again, there's no commitment, and you can jump off and cancel if it doesn't work for you or you don't like it. A couple of trainings. Steer clear of the spam folder. Really good technical setup, technical training. We get a lot of questions that are so in-depth, so technical, that we reached out to somebody that's like a crazy networking guru, genius man, and he put this together. I think his name is Marcus Buckingham. He put together this article, and we put it on our website. So this isn't even internal genius. We're leveraging somebody else who knows about spam folders beyond a level most of you probably care to know. So if you want that information, it's there. There's also a link to the Facebook group, but in that group is that specific URL is for the post I mentioned that has the benchmarks guide with the KPI funnel, I call it, that shows you how and when to optimize what parts of your copy and your email strategy. All totally free stuff in there for you guys as well. In addition, you can check out other stuff in our blog as well for more free training. So double down on that. You know, most good information is free if you know where to look for it, and that's a pretty good place to start. Same with Frankie's YouTube and Alex's stuff as well here, guys. So with that said, why don't we scroll back? I know there's only a few slides left, but let's go back and just cover in the next few minutes what you had for us.
Sure, guys. I mean, this is just like a quick summary, right? As long as you're relevant and precise, you're basically automatically offering value. So kind of going back to what Frankie said, like, let's say, you know, that lawyer, right? Instead of giving them like those ticket cases, you talk to them about the type of cases you want. You've personalized the email in some way. So now, like, you won't be like little Pablo here where you send out like 50 emails and you get no response, right? And then the other thing here, which is like a totally different story, but measuring and improving. So always look for your open rates, reply rates. I don't want to throw any benchmarks here, but ideally you should be getting like at least over like a 30 to 40% open rate if you're targeting enterprises. SMBs, I want to say around 60. Reply rates, like we have anything from 5% up to 30%. Really, you should make sure like to keep improving it. So normally the more targeted you are, the higher reply rates you should be having. And then keep track of like industries, employee sites, so any trends, like basically we keep track of them. So for example, if you get a lot of hospital or tech industries that are responding to your emails, you can then decide to focus on these guys. Or if you're getting specific positions responding, maybe like you initially thought that you need to talk to the CMO, now you see you're getting referred to director of marketing, or they're responding a lot, maybe it's worth focusing into them. So that's one of the things you should really focus on. But most importantly, keep track the number of leads you're getting each month and the number of closed deals, right? So it's much better to get 10 targeted leads, close 2 deals, instead of having like 50 leads and closing nothing. So that's pretty much it. Any questions here?
Yep, and for those who said the links aren't working, I just went through and tried to correct those. I know Frankie put them in the chat here as well, but can you guys just click whoever had issues with those links and let me know if you can't access them? I will find a way to get them to you. Awesome. And anybody else who's wondering how to sign up for Codelytics, just go create your free account, and then account settings in the top right, you can hit top up or account settings, and it'll take you to the screen where you can activate your profile and get started. Any other questions that you guys have, drop them in the email addresses in those links that we've given you. Ping us on Facebook, LinkedIn. We're all out there. You've got emails from this webinar that came from my personal email, so you can reply to that and I'll get it. Thanks for taking out the time and being part of this. Is our first official Codelytics webinar, so you guys are part of a milestone for us as a company, and really appreciate Frankie and Alex for coordinating this with us and putting this on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, man. It was so much fun.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.